Hi, I'm Jim Spellos, Food for Life instructor and co-host of Plant-Powered Metro New York's Heart to Healthy Heart. And I welcome you to our ongoing monthly series, Cooking with Chef Carole, presented by Plant-Powered Metro New York. Now, you may realize I'm not Wendy Sachs. Wendy can't be here today, so I get the privilege of introducing Chef Carole. I'm sure she's going to be watching our replay to make sure I do a good job. So make sure you say hi to Wendy in the chat when you introduce yourself. Now, Plant Powered Metro New York empowers people to achieve better health and overcome chronic disease through a whole food plant-based approach to nutrition. We offer evidence-based education, resources, and a grassroots network of support to create community and inspire change. Together as leaders, organizers, and educators, we raise awareness about the dramatic health benefits of whole food plant-based nutrition. We empower individuals to make their own lifestyle adjustments, and we lead projects that spark change in food policy, practice, and food culture. A very special welcome today to our current Jumpstarters in the PPMNY and Jewish Veg Jumpstart series. So glad you're here to see Chef Carole work her magic. And as always, a warm welcome to all of you tuning in today, those who've been with Chef Carole and Wendy from the start, and for those who are watching the replay. And now it's springtime, and as Chef Carole and I were talking, all types of fruits and veggies are available in abundance at our markets. I was at a local farmer's market today in Queens, and the fruit and veggies are looking amazing. In fact, we purchased some amethyst basil to grow in our garden, so looking forward to that. And as usual, we always encourage you to buy organic, or better yet, regeneratively grown vegetables. The quality of the soil makes a difference to your health and helps regulating climate change. Also, always, if you can, participate in your local CSA, that is the community supported agriculture. And you probably know, just let us know who you are, where you're watching from in the chat, ask your questions. Carole will have time to get to a bunch of them, so let us know. And please, as always, if you're enjoying the presentation, which I know you do, like us on Facebook or YouTube or even LinkedIn if you're watching there. So some quick announcements before we get to the chef. This coming Wednesday, my show, Heart to Healthy Heart, with my co-hosts Ben and Judy, will feature cardiologist Dr. Monica Agarwal. We're going to talk about inflammation and chronic disease and cardiology and cardiovascular disease. On the 7th of June, that's a Wednesday, we have the South Shore Spring Social, and that is a tongue twister, by the way. And please do join us for a 3-course meal at the vegan-friendly restaurant Leona and Three Brothers in Lynbrook, New York. Tickets now are on sale on our website. And on Saturday, June 17th, join us in Brooklyn for a live seminar, Holy and Healthy, a health empowerment seminar for faith communities. It's from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Registration is free. It's going to include some awesome food, but you do need to register from our website, and you need to register by Tuesday, the 13th of June. So did you know Garam Masala, a key ingredient in one of Carole's dishes today, is a blend of spices originating in India. I'm sure she'll tell you a little more about that. And the word garam means hot or pungent, and masala means spice. So let me bring Carole in and ask Carole a question. Carole, let's see if we can get you on here now. Hold on a sec. We get you. There we go. You know, you ever have the guy who's doing all the work?
I know. I just realized that you're so used to being behind the scenes. You're either one or the other. You're not doing both. You're not behind the scenes and moderating. So welcome, Jim, to the present forefront. Jim is always there with us. He's just in the background operating tech. So
is it true?
If I lose you.
I got a question. Is it true you're making today a no-bake vegan cheesecake?
I am actually making a no-bake vegan. And the reason I'm doing this is because we're welcoming all the participants from the Jumpstart 21 who are tied in and coming through the Jewish Veg, right?
Yep.
And so we have a big holiday coming up this Friday. You know, we have like 42 Jewish holidays, Jim. They go on and on sometimes. And this holiday is very special. People think it's a dairy holiday, and it is a dairy holiday because we eat a lot of blintzes and cream cheese and lox, and we eat cheesecake, all sorts of dairy things. But when I became a vegan and I wasn't eating dairy anymore, I was just like, I had to figure out, how am I going to celebrate this holiday? And this holiday really, for Shavuot, is really an agricultural holiday. We're really celebrating the agricultural season, and it sometimes gets mixed up. yes, we do eat dairy, but I do want you to know that all the little babies are coming, you know, the baby sheep and the baby calves and and all the things that we actually respect and leave on this planet because we're not eating them in this class. So let me start with telling you what we're making today. We're gonna make a soup. We're gonna make it's roasted carrot and garam masala. And as Jim said, garam masala, what it means, and it actually is a spice that comes mostly from India, but it is used as well in Pakistan and Iran. And it's a blend of spices, and I actually had to write down what was in most blends because every blend is different. If you were getting garam masala from northern India versus southern India, in southern India, they're going to probably make it hotter and use chili, some kind of chili peppers. But usually it has cinnamon, it has green cardamom pods, it has black peppercorns, coriander seeds, cumin seeds, mace, which is a relative of nutmeg, and bay leaves. So you can just find any garam masala recipe and make your own spice blend, which I do have in the cabinet, but I'm today going to use a pre-made blend. And we have talked a lot on this show about how we bring flavors up, right? And when we're not eating salt, we're not eating sugar, and we're not eating any oil, right? So the main way to bring up flavors is using fresh herbs, and then using your spices. So if you're just starting out for some reason, you just start to collect those spices slowly, right? You get the main, maybe 10 basic ones, and there are a handful of mixed blends that are just nice to have on hand, whether it be Italian seasoning or garam masala. Certain blends are just nice to have in your pantry. So I want to start the soup, but I'm going to tell you what else we're making. Jim already spilled not the beans, but he told you that we're making this no bake actually cheesecake, which is really phenomenally delicious. And then we're going to make a red cabbage and mango salad because I've really been eating a lot of mangoes lately. And one day I just said, oh, I'm going to throw some cabbage and a bunch of vegetables together because I love mixing fruit and vegetables together in a salad. And some people don't think about doing that. So I'm going to show that. But we have to get started. So we'll come back to more fun facts. But let me get the tray and show you what I've already started to set up. I was going to do all this ahead of time just to save some time, but we're going to do it in real life time here. So on this tray that's lined with a piece of parchment, it's lined with a piece of parchment so I have easy cleanup. And I've peeled carrots 1.5 pounds, and then I've also cut up 2 big onions, okay? And I was just going to show you that it doesn't really matter how you're going to cut all of this because it's ultimately going to go into the blender in the end. But I just want to show you that I've cut this in half, okay? I've cut this onion in half, and then I'm just cutting it into big, gigantic pieces. And I've done this with 2 onions. This is my second onion that is going on this tray, okay? And again, you don't have to, it doesn't matter how you cut it. They're going to be big chunks. And these chunks are going to go on this tray here. Now, the kind of carrots that I've used today, I needed 1.5 pounds, which is a wad of carrots actually. But this is pretty much all that's going in the soup besides some spices and some coconut milk. So it's a very simple soup. But why I love this recipe is it teaches you how roasting vegetables in the oven on a high heat caramelizes the vegetables and gives it more intense flavor. So if we were just to use these and just cook them in a pot, yes, it would be good, but the flavor's super gonna increase when we cook it on a high heat. Now, many of you that are coming from an oil background and use oil on a regular basis would drizzle some oil and then you'd put it in the in the oven. So here what I do is I actually just splash it with some water, and then I put the spices on this and I toss it. So let's do that. Once in a while, if I have some bean water, meaning like the aquafaba that comes from like chickpeas or white beans in a can, that water is called bean water. I usually have some in the fridge. Often I use that to toss the vegetables because it just gives it a little more flavor than water. But I'm just gonna use this literally. And if you have a spray bottle, that's a good thing. But it's okay if you don't have a spray bottle. Even I don't have a spray bottle. So that just is a little bit of moisture. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna simply get a measuring spoon and we're gonna toss our 2 teaspoons of Garam Masala. So that's just getting all sprinkled on there. And the oven has been preheating for for a while now, actually. It's quite hot. It's 425 degrees. That's the temperature that you roast at. You could do 400, it's fine, but 425 is pretty normal. And then we need to put just a pinch of cayenne on this, okay? So I'm just getting some cayenne and just giving it a pinch. Now we're gonna have to finish these. Once we make the soup, we'll taste it and see how we're gonna finish it, if it needs more of one spice or another. But this is just gonna get tossed. And now this is gonna go into the oven for a half an hour, okay? So we're gonna roast these vegetables. They're a little bit moist. You wanna make a nice flat, even layer so that it's not too built up, right? Not too bulky. And that's just gonna go right into the oven, right this minute. And like I said, we'll watch this. It needs at least a half an hour. So we'll finish this soup actually at the very end of class. But what else goes into the soup, I'm going to tell you in 1 second because I have it memorized, but it's not good to memorize. So we did the 2 onions and the 1.5 pounds of carrots. We're going to have vegetable broth. And I think I talk about vegetable broth all the time because I'm all the time making soup. But I know there's many new people joining today. So I just want to show you really quickly. When I was peeling the carrots today, peeling 1.5 pounds of carrots, I was cutting the ends, peeling them off. We needed 2 onions. I saved all the skins, right? And in the freezer, in a big Ziploc bag, as I'm cooking all week, I'm always saving a handful of common things that go in stock. I'm always saving the celery pieces, carrots, onions. Sometimes I save the mushroom stems, and you could put some, if you're peeling tomatoes, the tomato peel is perfectly fine for stock. So what I do today is I took the vegetables that were in the freezer and then all the carrots that I peeled and the onions, and then I cover it with water, a sufficient amount of water, like several inches over the amount of vegetables. And then I just put a flame underneath it and cook it for at least 45 minutes. And what happens is you get this beautiful, beautiful vegetable broth that looks like this. Now I haven't strained all this. Usually I take a colander like this, per se. I take a colander. Oh, this has a carrot on it. I take a colander and I put all the vegetables in here and I push down to make sure that I'm getting all the juices out of the vegetables. And then this vegetables goes right into my compost. So this is a way of really maximizing your vegetables that you're buying because you're getting your own stock or broth, and you're not buying the stuff in the store necessarily that is diluted. Sometimes I've had one of those boxes and they just taste like, I don't know, carrots. That's all they taste like. And then they also put a lot of sodium in those boxes.
Carole, the question for you has come up is what doesn't go in terms of vegetables?
I'll tell you the main thing that doesn't go is any kind of like cabbage, kale. No Brussels sprouts, no kale, no cabbage, no those kinds of like stronger vegetables. Now, what I will say, and I've said it 100 times, so if some of you have heard this from me, is that if you're making a very specific soup, very specific, like if we were making butternut squash soup today and we were cutting all these vegetables, I would actually use the skin of the butternut squash and put that into the stock, the same stock that's going into the butternut squash soup. If that butternut squash soup was having ginger in it, I would use the peels of the ginger in the stock, because those flavors are just promoting the main soup. But in general, I try to keep it neutral so that it is good for anything that I use during the week.
So Carole, questions come up. Can the broth be made in an Instapot?
Of course, of course. Don't ask me how to do it and which buttons to push, because I'm the worst Instapot cooker in the world. But if you work with the Instapot, you'll know just what to do. But it absolutely can cook in the Instapot. And what I love about cooking it in a regular pot and just leaving it on the stove is it makes the house smell really, really yummy. Any more questions, Jim, before we move on?
No, looking good.
Oh, and I forgot to tell you that I've been, because it's spring here where I live in New Mexico, we're just starting to see the fresh carrots. And I like buying these now more than the kind in the plastic bag, because I've been composting lately a lot, and it's nice to use these greens. You can eat these greens, actually. I never do, but you can eat them. But it's these young, tender carrots that are super, super sweet. So I left these out just to show all of you. And if you can, get your nice fresh carrots while they're still with the little tops on them.
Can you put the carrot greens in the soup?
I don't, but you could cook the carrot greens. It's like radish tops, Jim. People throw away the radish tops, and you can absolutely cook radish tops. And we talk about cooking beet tops all the time. In fact, I now buy beets just for their tops, and I forget that I need to make the beets. I call those vegetables 2-for-1s, because you get two things. You get greens and you get vegetable at the bottom. So we're going to move on. Just that has to cook for a half an hour, and we have a lot to cover today. So we are going to start our cheesecake because it's a process, and I want to make sure there's enough time for the cheesecake. So just any other questions, Jim, that you had?
Nothing else.
Okay.
Nothing else right now. Everyone's waiting for the cheesecake, I think. So.
Okay. Well, some of you might know this, but I'm a baker for making a living baking, and so making cheesecake on the weekend is not something I really love doing. But I am excited to do this one, and I like it because it's not cooked. It's a perfect dish for Shavuot, for any of you that want to make a dairy dish, and it's also great if you're having a hot summer and you don't want to turn on the oven, and you want to make a dessert, because this all is raw and ultimately it chills up in the freezer. So today what I'm going to do is, for time's sake, I actually already made a little one. I made one because it needs to freeze in the freezer for like 6 hours. So one needs time for it to firm up, but we're gonna start one today, and then I'm gonna swap out and I'll show you the one that's done. So let's get all our ingredients right here in front of us, move these limes. And the first thing, and I better read the recipe actually is not my own. It comes from the Minimalist Baker, and I like her a lot, actually. She has a lot of good recipes, and sometimes she uses oil, and sometimes she'll say in a recipe, just omit it if you don't want to use it. And this was one of those recipes. This was a no-bake coconut yogurt cheesecake, and it had about a tablespoon of coconut oil in it, and I've just omitted it entirely, and you wouldn't even know the difference. It doesn't affect it at all. So what we need to do first is to make the crust, and I want to first show you. You can make a big cake, right? And I took out my normal cheesecake pans, and these are called spring-form pans. And hopefully, I don't know if any of you have this kind of pans at home, but they are called that because they have a spring on the side, and that allows you to open the whole ring, and then the bottom comes out. So once your cheesecake is done, it just frees it the sides, and then you can transport it. I usually transport it in the whole thing, and then you spring open the side and it opens. So I have a couple different spring form pans. I've collected them over the years, and I love them and I use them all the time. Now, if you don't have any of these kind of pans, you could absolutely make this cake in just a regular cake pan. It might be a little challenging to get out, but you absolutely can do it. Okay, I'm going to show you another kind of pan. I love making individual cakes of any sort, whether they're small birthday cakes for friends or just even a small cheesecake. And this literally is the size of my hand, okay? And this is a silicone mold, and I'm just going to show you. 2 came in a box. It has a glass bottom, well, kind of a plastic. It's a glass bottom. Maybe it's plastic, I'm not sure. And then it has silicone. And I really like this pan very much. And then it releases itself like that at the bottom. This is a set that I bought, I don't know, when I moved here. And I've really used it a lot. And we're going to make these small cheesecakes. And the reason we're making small ones is because I already have one in the freezer. And how many cheesecakes could I have? I live by myself. So the first thing that we need to do, whether you're using a pan that looks like this, or a spring form pan, or just a cake pan, is we need to cut some parchment paper. And I can show you, I use this parchment baking paper, and the brand is called If You Care. I like the brown paper because the white paper is bleached, but if all you can get is white, then get white. And I almost don't do any baking ever without having parchment paper because it helps releases things, and it will allow you so that you don't have to grease anything. Okay, so what I did was I cut a circle the size of this bottom, and this is my circle right here. And then I cut a strip, and if you have just a regular layer pan, you're going to do the exact same thing. Only what I would do is probably try to, if you're doing with the layer pan, I would definitely try, because you're going to want to get it out of there. I would maybe try to make it all one piece, or and push it in so that you're going to be able to pull it out because you don't have any of those releasing mechanisms. So this pan is ready. There's no greasing, nothing. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to get exactly what we need together. We need a half a cup, and I have a full cup here. It's super crazy. I measured a full cup, but we don't need it all. I need a half a cup of, oh, no, I'm sorry. I need 3/4 of a cup. I lied. I'm making half. So I need a half a cup of dates, which I have. And you want to take out your pits and then measure your half a cup of dates. And this is exactly, I'm using the jewel dates. You can use the Deglet Nor. Just make sure that they're soft. If they're not soft, then just soak them in a little bit of water, boiling water, hot water, for a very few minutes, and then drain them, get all the moisture out, and then they'll break down much easier. Now, I'm just going to move these recipes for a minute. I hope they're not going to go too far. And I'm going to just show you that I have the food processor here. So what I want to do first is I'm going to grind the walnuts, and that's a half a cup. Now, if you don't want to use nuts in this, you could easily substitute the nuts for oats. You could use oats and dates to make your cake. Or you could also add some coconut. Today I was thinking, oh, some coconut would be great because it's coconut filling with the cheesecake. And I thought a little coconut in the crust would be delicious. So you want to just grind those, and I don't grind them too far down. And you might know, I'm getting the bowl out while I'm talking here. You might know that if you kept grinding them, if you keep grinding them, all the oil's going to come out, and they're all going to just almost kind of, not disintegrate, but they're just going to get very oily. So you want to just be careful how much you blend them up. And then we're going to take the pitted dates, and I like getting them so that they're somewhat broken down already, okay? So let's get these, and it's going to be a little noisy for 1 minute. And pulsing actually is good. Okay, so those are totally broken down, almost the size of my nuts. And now I'm going to blend both things together. Okay, and again, I'm not going to, just going to pull it, make it so that they both get mixed up together. Now I'm going to take these out, and we're not going to use this machine again. So we're just going to unplug this right this minute. You know, the Cuisinart, this is the Cuisinart food processor, but I want you to know, I had one from college till I was almost like 40 years old, like the same one. They last forever. And I don't know, this, if someone were just, you know, starting their very, very first kitchen, they would say, what do we need? And I'd say, you need a soup pot, and you need to have a food processor, because they're so awesome to have. And there are many, many times that I'm lazy and just even grind a bunch of garlic in the food processor and then put it in a tightly covered jar and use it the rest of the week. Because it just does everything for you if you want it to.
Carol, do you use the NutriBullet sometimes for smaller amounts that you want?
Yes, I do. I do, Jim. But, you know, I talk about this. You know, I say the same things all the time, but it's good you ask questions. It's good because it gives me a chance to reiterate things that I think are important. The NutriBullet I love so much. And it's a blender. I'm not going to use it today, but it's just very inexpensive. It's like $60. You can get a really good one for $60 using a Bed Bath & Beyond coupon. And they're very strong. You can make nice cream. You can do a lot of things in it. But the reason I tend not to do this sort of thing, Jim, in the NutriBullet is because it is upside down and it all gets stuck on the blade. And it just gets like, there's something really nice. Even sometimes I don't like my Vitamix for certain things because you can never take the bottom off. And what I love about the food processor so much is that it's a wide opening. The blade actually comes off and you can see everything you're doing, you know? So that's a good thing, right? That's why, so yes, the answer is yes, you can use the NutriBullet, but I prefer to use the food processor in this instance. So this is all blended. At this point, you could put a little coconut, like I said, in here. You could add a little flaxseed if you wanted to add a little bit of flaxseed. So I take, if you're making a small one, right, it's different if you're making a really, really big one. I take about a half a cup and I put it down and I start, and I have to get my fingers wet here. And I just want to show you what I do. I actually just start to pat this down so that it's all one layer, okay? And I try to do it evenly, okay? And if you have a really small, sometimes like the back of a small spoon could work, like this if you wanted. Sometimes I use a little bit of a measuring cup if you can get one in there. But you ultimately want, and I start to bring up the sides a little bit, but not so much. I want it to have a solid bottom, so I make sure that the bottom is covered. Then I'm going to take this same mixture and I'm going to start to build the sides, okay? Now, if you're using the real springform pan, unlike the silicone pan that I have right at this moment, the silicone pan is actually moving around a little bit because it's all flexible. But you're basically, and you could do this, I was just thinking, you could do this in a pie pan as well. That would be another good, if you didn't have any kind of special cake pan and you're not necessarily a baker that has a whole variety of kinds of pans, but most people have some kind of pan, pie pan. So that would work too, actually. So I'm just building the sides here and I'm trying to make sure that everything is even. Now I see that I've pretty much used up all of the material and I see that I'm not covered all the way around. So what I'm gonna have to do is kind of move some of it from the bottom and sides. So I'm just making sure that it's all over the place, right? And I'm moving it around a little bit. And you just want to build that up. And I'm going to show it to you in 1 second. And then I kind of carefully take my finger and I make sure the top is, it could be raggedy. It's okay for it to be raggedy, but I like it to be somewhat even. And better for it to be taller than short, right? And this is what you end up with, like this. Can everyone see that? Jim, can you see that?
Can see it great. And it's a great thing about eating the way we do is there's no eggs in here, so you can get away with a no-bake crust.
Right. And I actually have cheesecake that I have so many. There is an old demo, Jim. I didn't mention this to you, but I think it's February 2021. It would have been Valentine's Day 2021. If any of you want to go to YouTube. And I do make another kind of cheesecake in silicone pan, but I make little tiny cups, little ones. And you could also make this, speaking of cups, you could make it in a muffin tin. A lot of people own muffin tins. So that's another thing you could do. So this now that we're done with that part, that goes right into the freezer. And you can do that in advance if you want, certainly. So this is going right into the freezer. I'm just going to put it in the freezer just like this. And that is if I get the freezer door open. And that goes in. So we might as well go on with the filling. And I'm starting to really smell the carrots and the garam masala and everything that's roasting in the oven. Let me just rinse this. And we're going to make the filling. Okay, and let me just dry my hands here. Now for the filling, I do want to say to you, having, cooking desserts every day of my life, all the time. I've been baking since I was 9 years old. And desserts are fattening, okay? And even if you're eating a vegan dessert, if you're just buying vegan desserts, if you're walking around anywhere and you're picking up a vegan dessert, I guarantee you that vegan dessert doesn't have eggs or dairy, but it will have lots of oil and it will have lots of sugar, okay? So what we're trying to show today is how to make a dessert, which I do all the time, using whole foods, right? So our sweetnesses can come from applesauce, sweet potatoes, whole medjool dates, apples are sweet, all sorts of ways of making desserts that are whole foods, coming right directly from the whole food, and nothing, and very little processed food whatsoever. But I must say that no matter what, desserts are fattening, okay? All desserts are fattening. So this dessert, the main part of the cheesecake is made from cashews, which are good for you, but they're laden in calories. So I just want you to keep in mind that if you are watching your calories, sure, you're eating a healthy dessert, but it doesn't mean that you can eat the whole cake, okay? So I just like to remind people of that because it's hard to remember that detail sometimes. So for this particular thing, I really like to use the high speed blender, but for sure the NutriBullet is strong enough to use for making a nice, smooth cashew-based cheese. So what I've done is, again, I'm making half a recipe, and I'm going to use 3/4 cup, and this is actually not drinks, and I just realized I want to get all the water out of it. So these cashews I soaked overnight. And let's just say suddenly you're, wanting to make this cheesecake in 2 hours and you haven't soaked your cashews overnight in water, then you can just boil some water, make sure it's, boiling, and then put the boiling water over your cashews and just let them sit on the counter for like an hour. And you will have soft cashews. The longer they soak in the water, the easier that they break down, and the smoother you're gonna see that smooth consistency happen right away over if you didn't wait long enough. So 3/4 of a cup of cashews is going right into the into here. And then we need to have a half a teaspoon of vanilla. So these are now our flavors. And I'm just going to get a half a teaspoon of vanilla. And then we need to have a half a tablespoon of citrus zest. Well, we can use any kind of orange or lemon, doesn't matter which. I love using orange because I use a lot of orange juice for things like marinating tofu. And, you know, because I use the zest of lime, lemon, and orange as a replacement for salt in so many things that I make, that I'm constantly zesting an orange, always. If I were just wanting the juice, I would always, my first inclination is to zest it first. Why? Because why would I just get the juice when I'm gonna lose the orange? So this is a microplane. It's another good tool to have and own. And there are another kind of zester that I love. This was the first one that I've had for years, and it's more claw-like and you peel, but then you actually need a knife to chop. So, and the way that this works is and I'm just gonna do it while I'm talking to you, you pull towards you. This is very, very sharp, so you definitely wanna be careful, and you're just rotating the orange around, and you're pulling back, and while you're pulling back, you're getting all this skin off the citrus. Now, you really want to wash your fruit, right, before you do, because you're eating the skin now. And you don't want to go beyond the pithy part. You just want to take that surface off, just the top, okay? Now, you can buy dried orange zest and lemon zest, and I often, when I have too much of it, just let it dry out on the counter. I put it on a tray and I just let it sit, and within a day or two, it's already dry. And then I kind of use it, like sprinkle it on oatmeal, or I finish a salad with it so that the salad has a nice orange flavoring. There's all sorts of things.
There's a great dressing that I know we've done with the Food for Life with just orange juice and seasoned rice vinegar.
Oh, I love that recipe so much. I do that. See, I don't even use the orange juice, Jim. When I make that salad, I just cut up an orange for the salad, and then the salad already has the orange flavor or a grapefruit, and then I just put a little rice wine vinegar on it, and then I'm done with the salad.
Perfect.
It's so yummy. So this I save. Now, don't be one of those people that zest something, throw it back in your refrigerator, and then 3 or 4 days later, it's hard as a rock. What I would do is juice this right away, and then just put that juice in a bottle of something, and so that you don't end up with produce that's been peeled, right? And so I'm gonna knock all that out, and that's going in there. And then it says we need a half a tablespoon, and I do have a spoon. I have all these spoons that are incremental measures. And look, it's a little more than a half, but I'm just going to use it all. There's no reason not to use it all. And I just realized my knife is here, and it probably has onions on it. And I just was getting ready to scrape the orange off the counter and realized, oh yeah, I'm going to put some onion flavoring in my cheesecake. Not so good. So we've done the zest. Now we need 2 tablespoons. Again, I'm doing half a recipe. And I have incremental spoons. So the last spoon I used was a half a tablespoon, and this is 1 1/2, and I need 2. So this 1 measuring spoon is 2. I zest so many lemons that I end up with excess lemon juice all the time, which is super great to have in your refrigerator when you just need a little bit. So basically I have 2 citruses in here now. I have orange and the zest, and then we need a little bit of sweetener. Now that sweetener is up to you. You could put some date paste in as a sweetener. You could put date syrup as a sweetener. For ease at this moment, I'm just going to use 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. And I don't even think you need the 2 tablespoons. So I'm gonna not even fill up. I'm gonna do like a tablespoon and a half, because I don't like it so sweet, and I don't think you need it so sweet. but it is your preference of what to do. Okay, and then the last thing that goes in here, I have to get out of the refrigerator, is going to be the coconut yogurt. Now, I like this brand. I've become almost attached to this brand, but there are plenty of brands of plant-based yogurt. But the kind that you want for this cheesecake, you don't want, you could use cashew if you want. You could use soy if you want, or oat. It's all fine, but we're making it coconut tasting. So I bought the coconut yogurt. And this particular brand is called Kulina. And it's a little bit expensive, but what I like about it the most compared to other brands, and in the recipe you'll see I wrote a couple brands and I gave you the links to those brands so you can look at it closely, is this particular brand is hand-shucked organic coconut and water, and then probiotics and a little bit of agar, which is a thickener. So it's as clean as you can actually get if you're not making it yourself. And honestly, I think making it yourself is the way to go. So we need to have, for that half a recipe, I need 6 tablespoons. And would you believe that this is exactly 6 tablespoons? So I'm just going to get a spatula right now. And we really should look at our carrots while I'm back here smelling those carrots. I realize, but this is going to go in. All of this yogurt is going into, and this is going to be our base, and this is our delicious part of the cheesecake.
So Carole, is that going to give it a little bit of a sourness as well as the sweetness?
A little bit of a sourness, and you've got the lemon that gives it a little bit of sourness, and that's why I say put a little bit less sweetener in, because it's nice to have it tart. I mean, it's not my recipe. She recommends putting in, if it was the full recipe, I would be using she uses a 1/4 cup of maple syrup, but I just don't think it's necessary to use, well, no, she uses actually a 1/2 cup. And I made that into a 1/4 cup, and then I lessened it even more. So that's just, I've always, even when I cooked with butter and sugar, I've always been a person to use less sugar, if possible. And now that I don't use any real sugar at all, I tend to use even less sweetener, because I'm not used to having it. So that's all that's going to go in here. And we're going to get the lid, and it's over here. And I'm just going to puree this for 1 or 2 minutes. So I'll be right back so it doesn't make so much noise. Now, the really good thing about the Vitamix, I didn't take it out, but I'll take it out and show you, is the tamper. It's such a great thing because it allows you to take the center part off of and just move things around, and it can withstand touching the blade. And I'm trying, we don't have a full batch here, so I'm trying to make it move around. So we're going to put it on. Now that looks really great. I'm going to show it to you in a second, but you want it to be as smooth as possible. And again, the longer you soak your cashews, the faster that process is going to happen. So what I want to do right now is, it's about halfway over. We've been actually cooking the carrots and onions for almost a half an hour. And they smell so good that I think they're almost getting done. So I just want to show them to you. They look just like this so far, right? Steaming, giving me a facial at the moment. And what I'm going to do for 1 second is I'm just going to get a spatula. And I'm just going to turn them around, okay? So if you're used to using oil in these kinds of things when you're roasting, things are not going to be glistening, but that doesn't mean that you are not having flavor, right? And I used to be a real advocate of using olive oil, but the thing is, you realize that you can cook without it. And once you achieve not cooking without it, it's almost a freeing thing because you don't end up really feeling tired from oil, and you actually feel like you've eaten the vegetables and they're not being masked by oil or butter, and I think that is really what happens.
And Carol, your kitchen is cleaner too, I imagine.
Oh, first of all, washing up, Jim, takes 5 minutes,
right.
So it's so nice. It's so nice to not use those things because cleanup is so fast. Nothing is oily ever, So that's just going to go in until we're ready. We're almost ready. And let's get this off the, and let's move this. We have so many things going on here. You think that it's really hard to make all these things in a very short time sometimes. So here's the tamper, and whenever I take this tamper out, I tend to not put it down in the counter like this because it's bound to roll on the floor or the other side of the counter. I always look for a cup or something to just set it in because that actually makes it so it just stands up like that, and then it's all good. The other thing that if you have a Vitamix, I really encourage to get this wonderful tool from Sur La Table, which is hard as a rock. It's a spatula that is made specifically for the Vitamix. And the reason it's made specifically is because I told you earlier, you can't take the bottom off. Like most blenders, you can unscrew the bottom and then you can really get in. This allows you to get inside this long needle nose spatula I love. So let me get the crust, take it out of the freezer here.
So Carol, if somebody didn't have a Vitamix, would a food processor work?
It would work perfect. It's all fine. It's just the high power of the Vitamix is just super, super good, And then you're just gonna pour this cheese mixture right into your prepared shell, okay? Now, I keep wishing that I had put coconut in the thing, but I didn't. The other thing that you could do that's really pretty if you want to get fancy, and I tend not to get fancy on this demo here so that you all can have simplicity in front of you, but it would be really fun to put strawberries thinly sliced, and you just set them all thinly sliced around the edge, and then you pour in your cheese. Now, you won't see those strawberries ever because they're not on the outside edge, they're on the inside edge, but by the time a person gets to eating the crust and that last bite, they're going to find that strawberry.
Speaking of the crust, Carol, there's a question about how long in the freezer does the crust need to set?
Oh, I think it only needs to set up in the time that you need to make the, in the original recipe, she doesn't tell us. She doesn't say, let it sit for an hour, but it is firm enough now for us to use it what we're doing now. So I would say a half an hour at the most it could sit up. And then all I do is I bang it on the counter to get those air bubbles out. And you see, this is what still, as much as I promote and love the Vitamix, it is most frustrating to me because I'm one of those people that want to get every single solitary thing out of this thing. And this is why the needle nose thing works. But you can see there's always going to be some left in there. And I was trained in restaurant, and you have to, every bit of food is money. And so I was always taught you can't leave anything behind. So I'm not going to do this now because it takes time, but to get it all cleaned out. But I really do get it cleaned out. And then you just want to hit your little pan, and you see it's right to the edge of the crust. It's perfect. I made it perfect. There's a teeny little bit of edge. And this now is going to go in the freezer. And usually what I do is I give it a little bit of a cover with some saran wrap or a plastic top of some sort. And usually I try to make this ahead of time. You can make it a day ahead of time. You can make it 6 hours, but it does need to freeze, okay? That is really important. And then to eat it and cut it, it needs maybe 10 minutes or so to thaw out, but you want to serve it very cold. You don't, and I think this is the perfect dessert for not just Shavuot, but if it's the middle of summer and it's New York and you don't want to turn your oven on, but you're hankering for a dessert, I think this is a perfect dessert. So let me get this in the freezer and just set it all up so that it's flat, so it's somewhere flat getting chilled. We're not going to eat that one right now. And now we're going to move on to our salad, and then we're going to finish the soup. So Jim, are there any specific questions for the cheesecake?
Well, the silly question is, okay, so once you've made it, how long does it keep? Although I think that would be an hour or two if you're hungry.
I think that it's, I think it can keep up several days. It's as long as it's refrigerated, I think it can keep up to 3 or 5 days. I really do. But who keeps it? No one's going to keep it. I mean, I brought this cheesecake to so many parties, and before I get the slice for me, it's like gone. Yeah. You know. So.
Can you use something other than cashews for the crust?
You probably could. What are you thinking that you want to use a different? The thing is, we really need fat, and we really need a nut.
But you can use a different nut. I could use walnuts. I can use almonds.
It's not going to be the same.
Yep. Okay.
It's not going to be the same, Jim, because the cashews give it a cream. The body of a cashew is like if you were to soak walnuts. It's not going to be the cream. It's just not. So I can't think of a nut off the top of my head. You know, often if we were making cashew cream I'll show you for the soup, you know, to drizzle on top, or we're making cashew cream for the top of pizza, you know, you could substitute that with white beans. That would be a super good thing. But for this particular thing, you're all in cashews.
And it's raw cashews, right?
And it's raw, unsalted cashews. And I try to buy just the pieces because they're less expensive. You know, the ones that are all broken up.
Yep, perfect.
Any other questions?
No, just waiting for more food to come on the table. So go for it.
Oh my gosh, where are the questions? People are just so intensively watching. I'm just rinsing this out while we have a minute.
But Carole, you're making a cheesecake. You really expect people to be asking a lot of questions at this point?
I do want to tell you that we can top this cheesecake with the orange segments, you know, that we just cut from. There's so many ways to top it, and if we have time, I'll make a quick little sauce at the end for you, if we have time. But let's just get through everything that I want to get through. And then if there's time, we'll make a nice little fast sauce. Otherwise, it's perfectly good. Yeah. I'll just show you what I would do. If I wasn't making a fast sauce, I would definitely just grab the same exact orange that I just put to the side. I would peel it, right? I would get all the skin off and the pith, right? This is what I would do. And then I would cut the segments out of their little membranes so that there's no membrane. I mean, this is the way you put oranges on top of a salad too. You get rid of this. Somewhere I'm getting rid of this, right here. That all goes into the compost. But then you make nice segments, right? You just cut between the membranes and you pull away that segment, right? And that would make just having these nice oranges and some fresh strawberries on top of that is more than delicious, right? Blueberries, blackberries, whatever it is that you want to put on top of your cheesecake, right?
Any fruit will do, I would imagine. Any citrus or berry probably would do.
Yes, any berry. But I'll show you. Let's just get through everything else, and I'll just I'm kind of now attacking this orange and getting it away from all its membranes. And that is such a that's yummy and good. I almost can't help it. Put it in my mouth. And let's get it onto a plate. That with some blueberries would be delicious on the cake. I actually have some strawberries. We've been getting some nice strawberries from California.
Yeah, it's strawberry season around here too.
But the strawberries around you, Jim, from New Jersey, that come from New Jersey, they don't come till summertime. You know those little teeny ones?
Yep.
Not the ones that are mass produced, but the really teeny, yummy ones at the farmer's markets. Those don't come till later on.
Yeah, but it's getting to be strawberry picking season.
Yeah, so yes, you know, we're really spoiled because, like I said, with the mangoes you can practically get all year round, especially if you're living near an Indian or Pakistani community. They have mangoes all the time. But there are ones that only come at certain times a year. Okay, so I just want to, this is really definitely done. I'm going to take this out. Just going to at least stop it, and it's going to be in the, I want to get on to just make the salad, and then we'll do the soup at the very end. So these are the oranges. We can move all this. There's nothing like getting things moved. Okay, and this can stay over there. This is for the soup later, the broth. Okay, so I'm going to use this burner right here, and we are going to get some water boiling. The cabbage. This is a salad that I just kind of made up recently, and all I know is I've been eating it a lot. And when you're eating something often, more than once a week, you realize that you must really like it. So this is why we're making it, because the reason we're making it is because I really like putting fruit with vegetables. And a lot of people don't think about when they're eating their green salad to add the blueberries and the raspberries or the oranges or the strawberries along with the greens and the radicchio. Often people don't think about putting those two things together. And for me, I think about them all the time. So this is a particularly great thing to mix what is I'm calling a seasonal thing, and mango, meaning mango is really out right now, very fresh. And there are like 50 kinds of mangoes. And I left this book open to show you. I love this Dr. Furman book. It's 100 Best Foods. It's a magazine style. It's all alphabetical. I show it to you every time. Wendy and I talk about it all the time. And I turned to the mango page today just to say, and I wanted to read it to you right from the book. Mango is one of the most popular fruits in the world. Who would have ever known? It is the national fruit of India, Pakistan, and the Philippines. It is also the national tree of Bangladesh. There are many different varieties, all with their own distinct sweetness. And it goes on to talk about all the fiber and the vitamins and the phytochemicals, and that there has been a study that is also good for cancer cells. So mangoes are a good thing to eat. That little tidbit comes out of this lovely book. It's a magazine. I call it a book, but it's really a magazine. And it's just got 100 best foods. Now, there are 50 kinds of mangoes, at least 50. I don't know. I think this is a Tommy Atkins mango, but I don't really know. So if someone's out there and says, I know that one, tell me the name in the chat and Jim will tell me. But I think it's a Tommy Atkins, but there are so many kinds that look just like this. This is the big kind. I love, and this one comes in lots of different kinds under different names. This one is Alfonso. And this one, I prefer this oblong, skinny, opposed to this globe-like one. I prefer this one because it has no fiber. When you get to the middle of the seed here, there's a lot of fiber that's attached. And I love sucking on the pit once you get to the middle. So I don't want all that fiber in my teeth. So I tend to buy these, but I just bought this to actually show you what it looks like. So you get whatever mango you can actually get. And there must be a handful of ways to actually cut a mango. And there are many, many ways. And the first way that I first do is I always take the top and the bottom off. That's the very first thing that I do. Okay, now there's a pit that's running vertically like this, okay? The flat pit. It's a big pit right in the middle, and you're going to cut right on the sides. Now, like I said, there's many ways of cutting a mango. I'm going to show you maybe one or two ways really quickly. You can peel the mango with a peeler. Okay, so one way is to just start peeling it like that. Okay, and all of that is going to go into the compost, right? And you just peel. And then you have half of it all peeled, right? And you can continue to peel the whole thing, okay? The other way is you can take this knife. This side is not peeled, right? And I'm just going to show you, run your knife along the side of the peel. And you've got your, it's still in the skin. I have a little bit of fiber right there, a little bit of pit. I'm just going to cut it away. And then what you do is you take, I'm getting a little paring knife out. You take a paring knife and you just lightly, and you're careful because my hand is under here, right? Now, if you feel like you're going to pierce the skin, then do this right on the counter if you're not good with the knife. And then you cut it into your little dices while it's still in the skin, and then you turn it outside like this, like it's a porcupine, right? And then from that porcupine, you just take a knife and you can just cut the skin off, right? And just take it away. And you have to leave the skin away from it. And then it's already sliced. But I don't usually like the porcupine method. I like just peeling the whole thing. I've also seen that you can take a glass, like a drinking glass, and slide it along the half mango and just get all of the slice out like that. But this is kind of messy here. And that is not my preferred method. My preferred method is peeling it, because then you know you've gotten all the skin off and you freed it away, and it's slippery. So you have to be kind of careful once you've got it all peeled. Mine has already been cut in half. And then you have to see the pit is right there. And then I have to carefully take this knife and run this alongside. And then I carefully now, so I'm just getting it all diced, ultimately. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to take some of it off the top, right? And then I'm going to cut it here into nice, little, tiny, small, bite-sized pieces. So I'm just getting this diced, okay? And I'm not going to suck on the pit in front of you, but it is something that I love doing. And here, there's still flesh along the sides, so you always want to get those sides off, right? And that's where the pit, you're running into the pit there. That's going to be put away for later, not thrown out. Eventually it goes into the compost, eventually. But for now, it's going to end up right in my mouth, that pit. And I'll suck on it until it's all the mango is off of it. So that is one mango. And I'm going to get a bowl out. We're just going to make this bowl, I think we're going to make it right on the plate, right directly on the plate. Now, we need to have a half a cup of diced red peppers. You could use green, you could use, I have red and yellow, and I'm just going to show you that I'm going to put them out here. They're the same size exactly as the mango cut. And then we're going to use a little bit of jalapeno. Now this is a big jalapeno. I live in New Mexico and they seem to be gigantic here. And we don't want any of the seeds, right? And I measured this out so that it's not a spicy salad. And if for some reason you're a person that just doesn't like any spice, then stay away from the jalapeno. But the little bit of jalapeno, and I suggest that you use like a teaspoon of it. And I've left all the seeds inside, as you can see. And I'm just going to give it a quick chopping while I'm talking. Now, what's happening is the water is boiling. Jim, did you say something?
Yeah, what about the pith? Isn't that where the heat is as well as the seed? There's always a controversy as to where the heatness comes from peppers like that.
Oh, they come from the seed.
Gotcha.
So I've left most of the seeds behind. you know, but it doesn't mean that my fingers aren't burning, and you really want to be careful when you chop the jalapeno, right? And often I wear a plastic glove, or sometimes I just put my hand in a plastic bag, and then I'll take these seeds out often by scraping them with with a measuring spoon and just get rid of them all. But I'm not using this whole jalapeno today. It's a quite large one, so I just want to keep it intact. So I didn't take the seeds out, and maybe there's 1 or 2 seeds on the counter here, but not really. It's pretty clean.
Is there an alternate pepper if people don't like jalapeno at all that could be used?
Well, what would be alternative? A serrano? Would they eat that if they weren't eating a jalapeno?
Could be.
I mean, I would use a serrano if they weren't eating jalapeno, but if you're someone that's just simply scared of any kind of spice, right? Of the heat, I mean, not spice, but heat, then just omit the whole thing. So that is the vegetables, and we do need some very small, I've cut a red onion, and we just need a very little bit of onions, okay? And we have to finish up. I realized I thought everything was so simple today, Jim, and all of a sudden everything goes so fast. So this is the cabbage, the red cabbage, and I'm just gonna scoot all this over here. My normal way of cutting the cabbage is literally just slicing it thin, okay? But I recently got a new tool that I'm kind of still trying to learn how to use. It's a simple tool, and it's an awesome tool. It looks like this, and it's what people use in the Ukraine and in China to make kimchi, and it actually slices the cabbage, and it's pretty great, actually. You see I'm getting it pretty good now, and you see it slices really fast.
What is it called, Carol?
It just looks like this. I don't really know what it's called. I have a friend that's been spending years in the Ukraine, and she showed it to me, and I practically fell out of my seat when I watched her slice the cabbage, because I'm always eating cabbage. And I was like, oh my God, I have to have that tool. And so I just went on Amazon, and I Googled in general, Chinese or Ukrainian cabbage slicer. And this is the common tool that they use. So it's pretty awesome. I'm just getting used to using it. It's very, very fast. And you could also use your food processor blade to cut cabbage. I'm just one of those people that are all the time cutting. I'm not afraid to use my knife to do it, but this is really fast. Now, when I make coleslaw, I would just use this just like this. Coleslaw, just like, but I discovered cooked cabbage, blanched cabbage. So this is boiling like crazy, and we're literally going to put it in for less than seconds, like seconds, done. It's already done. This is called blanching, right? And blanching your vegetables. And I'm literally going to get this out of here right away. I didn't prepare an ice bath like I'm supposed to, but the water's going to be purple. I wish I could collect it just to show you how beautiful the water is. And I'm going to cool this off now with just regular water. But normally I would put any kind of blanched vegetable right in an ice bath to cool it. Look at the water. It's purple. It's like you want your hair. We have a friend here in town that has really beautiful purple hair. And she didn't really plan for it to all be purple, but it's quite pretty. Anyway, so I'm blanching this, and then what you want to do is get all the water out. You don't want any water. So as you're squeezing it, you're actually, the dye of purple is just eking out. Just eking out. And it's really beautiful. Now, of course, it like spinach, it kind of collapsed in on itself and doesn't have very much body anymore. It's really wilted. But there's something really nice about blanched spinach. I mean, not spinach, sorry, blanched cabbage. So now we're going to build the salad, really, and then we're going to make the soup, and we're going to finish everything up. So this, I'm just going to make sure, just like green salad, you don't want any extra water, because it's just going to dilute your salad. So there goes your purple cabbage. And again, if you were making for a lot of people, the other day I made this salad, Jim, and I ate the whole thing. I think it could be for 2 people normally, but I ate the whole thing with, and look at that water. It's purple. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
Hey, Carol, somebody just asked, can you use that water from blanching to make veggie broth?
I probably would not, because it's going to be, no, probably I wouldn't. I would use that water in my garden or to water a plant, you know, but that's about it. So I'm going to put like a tablespoon of red onions on top. So this is like purple on top of purple. You could use green onions if you want, right? And then we're going to put all of this on top of this. All of this is going on top, right? It's kind of like a salsa, but not quite a salsa because you've added the, and then we want to make a very quick dressing. And the very quick dressing, I'm going to show you, and it's 1 lime juice. So I'm just going to get this out. It's 1 lime juice. Okay, and this is I love this tool. There's certain tools that I can't live without, and then there's some tools that you just don't need. But a juicer is a good one to have. So that's probably a couple tablespoons of lime juice. So I really like the limes, and this is good for cleaning copper pans. Okay, and then we want to have 1 tablespoon of tamari. So this is the gluten-free. I like gluten-free, and this is also low sodium. It's the Sanjay, and I use 1 tablespoon. 1 tablespoon with the lime juice, and then I use 1/2 teaspoon or a teaspoon. I can't remember how I do. I usually just pour in a drop, and I said 1/2 teaspoon. So we're just going to get 1/2 teaspoon of tahini. Now, the reason I'm using the tahini, I think in the olden days when I would make a dressing like this, I would definitely put sesame oil, but I don't use sesame oil anymore. So I use this wonderful tahini that I like, and I'm just going to put 1/2 teaspoon, just the littlest amount, because that is going to make it have that sesame flavor that I'm looking for. You could also toss it with some sesame seeds. Black ones would be very beautiful. And then you just mix this dressing like this. This is it. And then you pour this dressing on top, right? And that is your salad, and we can give it a little mixing around. I don't like mixing it too much because if you mix it too much, all the mango turns purple. So I just give it a light toss, and it's really the cabbage, because we blanched it, it's like slightly cooked, right? It's so beautiful. And I like that it has a little more dressing than it needs. It just kind of absorbs at the bottom there. And I'm just going to wipe this down a little bit. And then I like to put a few peanuts on top. And I have some unsalted roasted peanuts. And it's nice for their little crunch. I just put those on top. And also I like to put a little bit, something I usually do before I mix it, but I forgot, is to take a little bit of cilantro. Let's just take a little bit, not too much, because I really don't want it to be too, it has the jalapeno. And again, this kind of sums up, Jim, what I was talking about at the beginning of class. If you're not using salt and to enhance things, and you're not counting on the oil, all these little things really bring up the flavor. And when you eat it, it's going to taste so fresh, right? So fresh that, and that just gets tossed on there. You could toss it a little bit more, but it's good. And that's the salad.
That's a perfect spring and summer salad.
But look, it's really beautiful.
Gorgeous.
And I'm not kidding you. I ate a portion of that by myself the other day.
Why not?
I ate the whole thing, like in one straight sitting. I thought, I'll put it away after I eat a few bites. But no, I ate the whole thing.
There's nothing bad in there at all. And all those flavors must be amazing together.
Oh my God. I didn't even taste it. I mean, I'm just already serving it and didn't even bother to taste it. But, it's so good. It's just to die for. And it's super perfect to take on a picnic if you wanted, right?
Yep.
Now that we're going to be starting summer in a few weeks eventually. So let's get to finishing because I wanted to make blueberry sauce, but I'm not sure we're going to have time for blueberry sauce. We'll see. Not that everyone has to leave, but I don't like keeping you all longer than necessary. So we're going to now make the soup really quickly. You're going to see how fast the soup comes together. So, Vitamix. And we get out our pan with our very roasted vegetables, right? Our very roasted vegetables. We're going to put that down. And I'm carefully, because all this is on the pan. Now, if you don't have a Vitamix and you were making this in a smaller blender, I would make it in batches and do a little bit at a time. And where was I gonna go with my spatula? But I think we can fit almost all of it into here, almost all. But we could also make it in batches for safety. This is the good thing about the parchment. This goes right in. I think we're gonna make it in 2 batches so that we don't overfill anything, okay? And then we need to have some stock. I'm just gonna go look at how much. We need like 2 cups. This is pretty much what I measured out. So I'm gonna pour the vegetable broth in here like that. And we wanna add coconut milk. Now, when I first made this soup, I tend to always buy these little cans of coconut cream. They're actually 5 ounces. And this is usually what I buy, these little teeny cans, because I seldom find the need for a gigantic can because it just means that it's full of, even if you buy the light coconut milk, it just means you're adding a lot of fat to your soup, and you just have to be conscientious that you've added fat to your soup. Fat is good fat. This is good fat. But again, if you're watching your weight, you might not want to be eating too much coconut milk. So I tend to buy these little ones over the big ones. And then if I felt like the soup needed more milk, I would add some oat milk or almond milk, something that is lighter than this coconut milk and less dense calories. But I'm going to use this can because I kind of want it out of my kitchen, to tell you the truth. I bought it a while ago, and I keep shuffling it around in the pantry, never using it. And so I'm going to use this, and I'm going to pour some of that in there like that. And we're going to get this on the blender, and we're going to get our pot close by. Let's get the pot, get it on the burner so that it's happening. So look, we're just putting usually we start the soup in the pot, but we're not doing that this time. We're putting this on and we need the lid. Where did I go with the lid? One has to have the lid. I know where it is. It is so close by that I moved it. And Jim, I don't expect you to see it because
I'm looking for it.
Way over here.
It's over the back.
I remember. That's what happens when you put things out of sight, out of mind. And we're just going to puree. It needs a little more broth. Okay, so that is not, I want that all to be mixed. Okay, so this is now going into the pot, into the hot pot, and it's all creamy. It's really, really creamy. And you want it to be creamy. That's ideally what you want. And it's already starting to boil. And I'm going to get another kind of spatula just to get this out for now.
So Carol, because we know the Vitamix can really have a high speed, could you use it to actually cook the soup and heat it in there?
Well, what do you mean, Jim? I don't understand, like heat it in there. What does that mean?
Oftentimes, if you put soups in a Vitamix and you blend it for a long time, because of the heat of the blade, it actually heats up the soup, and
Oh,
you can cook
I
it
would
for
never
you.
think to do that actually, but you could.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, you could. I've never done that before, but okay. I mean, I guess that would save you from heating it. I guess I naturally put it in a pot and heat it because why do I do that? Because I want to finish it off.
Yeah.
And I feel like it needs the flavors. I don't know what the flavors are tasting like until I get it all mixed up, right?
That makes sense.
So I want it to be hot, and then I want to finish it off in the pot. So I guess that's the answer, Jim.
Good answer.
That's the answer that I have. And you're gonna need extra stock sometimes. And I'm just gonna get a little bit from back here. And I'm
again,
gonna put this on.
Water would work if you didn't have any extra stock.
Water is more than perfect for this soup because especially if you're using a whole can of the coconut milk, the full can, you already have richness, right? So it's really okay. And I'm just going to start this. And what I like about the Vitamix in this particular instance is it really gets it super, super velvety. And sometimes I like soup chunky, and sometimes I like it velvety. And this makes it really, can you see, it's like super, super velvety. And it looks like we need a little more broth because I'm kind of holding back a little bit on the can here, but I guess I can use it all. We're just gonna get this in here. And to get all this out, my frustration of getting this out, I'm gonna add a little bit of water. You could go to the back of the stove and I'm just gonna swish it around and that's gonna get my blender clean. And it's also gonna thin out my soup. Now, you might need a little more stock. It just depends. Oh, this is boiling like crazy at the moment.
Hey, Carol, we got a great question. And the question is, could you use soy milk and a teaspoon or two of coconut extract?
Oh, yes, that's what I would do. Whoever that person is, that's exactly what I would do. See, I would use the little bit of this one, and then I would use the rest soy milk.
And then the coconut extract to give it that flavor and
but you're not going to it's not going to be so coconutty. That's the thing. That's why the first time I made it just with my normal little can. And then I thought, oh, I want it to be a little stronger than what it is. And so and then I have this can in the pantry and I thought, I'm just going to use it. And I've just rinsed out this can with some water to get all the juice out. And I'm just thinning it out so that it's the right consistency, right? So it's soup consistency, right? And we're just going to plate this. First, we're going to taste it, but we're going to get these out of here. And we're going to clean up a little bit. I don't know where the time goes. Start, and I think I have all this time to show you every meal things, and then poof, it's over. I don't know what happens.
Time flies when you're cooking great food.
Well, the thing is, I try to do so much in a little bit of time that, sometimes I'm a little more ambitious than the actual time. And maybe I talk too much. But I like, oh my God, it's so yummy. Oh my gosh, it's so yummy. It is so yummy, it needs nothing. But it does need one finishing thing. It needs to I need to get this back out of the sink, this juicer. Need to get this out here. Need to get one lime, right? So lime is kind of a consistent flavoring today. And I'm gonna squeeze lime in here. A whole lime I'm gonna do. Get rid of that for now. And we still have to get at least our cheesecake out of the pan. Whether we make the sauce or not, we'll see. So this then cooks, but the flavor is perfect. The reason I don't serve it out of the blender is because if it needed adjusting, we put our lime juice in. I would put a little cayenne maybe in it a little more. You doesn't hurt to put any other kind of ginger if you so wanted, but the masala has so many spices that it makes it super easy just to make the soup with the carrots, onions, a little cayenne, and no salt necessary, no oil necessary. We're gonna get the big ladle out, and one serving is technically about 12 ounces. So this is 8 ounces. This is a cup measured. The soup is a tiny bit thick, but it looks good. Could have a little more thinness, just a hair, but that's okay. I'll adjust it later. So here's the bowl of soup, and then what I like to do, and I have it in the fridge somewhere, I always have a little bit of cashew cream in the refrigerator, which means I just have soaked the cashews, added water, some lime juice, a little garlic, a little onion, whatever and a little miso actually. And then I take a spoon, let's just do this, and I drizzle it over the top. And I kind of try to do it in a concentric circle, like that. Try to make, I don't know, it's hard to see, maybe. I do the little concentric circle. That's our little garnish, right? And then you take a knife, could be this paring knife, and you just work your way from the center out, and you make a little design with the cashew cream. And that's how it gets to be real. I can't show you because if I move it over, and then it's hard to not put greens in the soup. I have these pea sprouts, and I literally, sometimes I break them in half, sometimes I just tear them, and I serve the soup with the pea greens right on top. And the stems are edible. There's nothing more yummy than pea shoots. So that is the soup. If you can see it, I try not to tilt it too much, but yep, that's the soup. Okay, I'm gonna move this soup to here. We really need to finish, Jim, so I'm not sure that I'm making a blueberry sauce today.
You know, we'll have that sauce in our imaginations, but we definitely want to see the cheesecake.
But I do want to tell you that if you were to make a sauce, I would just take a saute pan, and I usually use frozen blueberries or frozen cherries, frozen raspberries. I put them in the skillet. They melt down, they're a little liquidy because they've been frozen. And then you can either add a little bit of cornstarch, but I have started using this wonderful kazoo root starch, which is really good, and it doesn't taste like cornstarch because it comes from a root vegetable, and it's a Japanese thickener. It's very common in Japanese food. And it's gluten-free, which is nice. And I would put just a little bit of that in the liquid, and it thickens everything up, and then voila, you have your sauce. And then put a little cinnamon, a little nutmeg, and then we need to have a plate for this to go on top. And I have a plate right over here. So this was the one that I just made maybe several hours ago. And it has to come out. Remember, it's not the spring form pan, so it's a little different than, it's not as, I don't know, how do I want to say it, as easy to get out as but I'm just taking it off. You see, this silicone pan, it moves. You see how it's sliding off the glass tray right away? Tray, gone, right? Pan, gone. Piece of parchment, off. Right? There's a piece of parchment at the bottom. That too can come off. You can peel it off if you can find the bottom. Off, right? And then you put it on the plate. And I guess we could show here, I have a few, we'll just show plain, just not plain, but we won't make it fancy. I'm gonna leave some of the juice behind, but we'll use these. We'll do it very simply today. Let's just again, I was going to make a sauce, but it's okay. And we'll just make a bunch of orange slices on the top. Maybe not the whole top because I'm I'm the only one eating this. Anybody that lives here near me can please come by. And
You're such an amazing perfectionist, Carol. It looks absolutely beautiful.
I know. And so then you just put these blueberries on top, right? These blueberries go on top like that. And I have strawberries too in the fridge. And that would be your dessert. And then I would normally, let's just see if we could cut it, because it's nice for you all to see that. But it really needs about 10 to 15 minutes because it just came out of the freezer. And you don't want it to be sitting on your table lukewarm. You want it to be semi-cold, right? Because it's, again, you have to remember that we haven't baked this cake. It's not baked. So we want to just cut it. And I'm just going to do that. This is a small cake. Everyone has to remember that it's totally tiny and cute. And that is your slice of cake right there, right? Yeah. Beautiful, right? And put it on the plate with some sauce you could. And oops, I just dropped it. That's not very good, but that is your cake. And I'm starting to drop it because I don't have a spatula out. But it looks delicious. I might want to bite it. Just
you take a taste. Let us all know.
Oh my God. Oh, it's cold. It just needs like literally 5 minutes of warming up. You will never know that you're missing the normal cream cheese, heavy cream, eggs. You will never miss this cake because this is so delicious. But always keep in mind, dessert is dessert, and it all has calories.
But Carol,
that's it, Jim.
That's it.
We've done it all.
It's interesting because we didn't have a lot of questions, and it's because everyone's just absolutely fawning over the presentation, the food, everything that you've done. It was an amazing, with one quick question, but can you answer it in 10 seconds? Somebody asked, how would you make that blueberry sauce?
Okay, really fast. Frozen fruit is the best. Get a skillet pan, put the fruit in. Let it melt. It's going to be all liquidy. And you're going to say, I don't want it all liquidy. Then you're going to take either a little cornstarch or a little kudzu, and then you're going to use a date maybe in it to make it a little sweet, a whole date. You're just going to chop it up and put it in, or a little teeny bit of maple syrup, a little bit of cinnamon, and make it the consistency, and then put it on the top.
Wow. That sounds incredible. And at that, we are at an hour and a half, and maybe a couple minutes more, but we're not going to tell anybody. So while Carol's doing a little cleaning up, let me give you a couple of last announcements. Again, reminders of what's coming up for Plant Powered Metro New York. Coming up this Wednesday, Heart to Healthy Heart, with our special guest, Dr. Monica Agarwal. Should be a great show talking about inflammation and chronic diseases. June 7th, the South Shore Spring Social in Lynbrook. Tickets available on the website. And on the 17th, the Holy and Healthy Health Empowerment Seminar for Faith Communities from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Everything that we do, you can find links to from the website. And just so you see what they are, we have the events page right here coming up. If you need to get in touch with Carol with us, which I think everybody does, you can reach her at carol@theveggievangard.com. You can also find her on Instagram and her beautiful food at The Veggie Vanguard. So you don't miss another class. The next show with Chef Carole is Sunday, the 25th of June, 5 o'clock Eastern time. And don't forget that we also do have a great recipe app that Carol has given a lot of recipes for, the PPMNY In Your Kitchen app. There is the URL that you could be able to access and get so many of the recipes that Carol and all of the culinary experts in our community have offered over the years. It's truly an amazing free content for our community to have. Please always consider donating to PPMNY so we can continue doing our best work. A warm thank you, as always, for Alan Smithy for his contribution. Carol, any last words? Wait.
I thank you for stepping in for Wendy. I know everyone's used to us meeting Wendy all the time, but you and I, nobody knows our history. We have a lot of working together. So it's great to have you. Thank you so much for hosting. And Isla's decided that she's ready to eat. And I know some of you like seeing the puppy, and she's getting grown up now, but she's still acting like a puppy. And we're good. And thank you for joining us. And we'll see you on June 25th.
Indeed. And on behalf of the entire team and Chef Carole, I'm Jim Spellos reminding you, remember, eat your veggies, especially when Carole cooks them.
Thank you.